The transatlantic slave trade refers to the organized, systematic transport of enslaved people, primarily from West and Central Africa across the Atlantic to North and South America, as well as the Caribbean. It took place roughly from the 16th to the 19th century, with its peak in the 18th century. In total, an estimated 12 to 15 million Africans were forcibly taken. Background. After the discovery of the Americas by Christopher Columbus in 1492, Spain and Portugal began establishing colonies. The indigenous population of the Americas died in large numbers from introduced diseases and forced labor. As a replacement, European colonial powers turned to African slaves, drawing on pre-existing slavery structures in Africa, but greatly intensifying and transforming them. The transatlantic slave trade was part of an economic system often described as the triangular trade. From Europe to Africa came weapons, textiles, glass beads, alcohol, and other goods which were exchanged for people. Enslaved Africans were shipped under extreme conditions, crammed together, poorly fed, and subjected to violence. Mortality rates during the voyage were often between 10 to 20%. Goods and trade. Colonial products such as sugar, cotton, coffee, tobacco, and rum were produced in the Americas and then shipped back to Europe. Operations in Africa. European traders rarely carried out the capture of slaves themselves. Instead, they traded with African rulers or intermediaries who supplied war captives or people from rival ethnic groups. However, growing demand led to armed raids and targeted kidnapping expeditions, which destabilized entire regions. The Middle Passage, the Atlantic crossing, lasted between 6 and 12 weeks. Conditions included cramped quarters, shackles, little food or fresh water, and diseases such as dysentery, scurvy, and smallpox. Physical and psychological violence was constant. Many took their own lives or died due to the circumstances. Upon arrival in ports such as Havana, Kingston, Charleston, Bahia, or Cartagena, enslaved people were sold at auctions, often with bodily inspections similar to livestock markets. Labor in the Americas, slaves worked on sugar, cotton, and coffee plantations in mining, construction, and domestic service. Consequences for Africa. Entire regions were depopulated, economies disrupted, and political instability increased. The trade in weapons fueled internal African conflicts. Consequences for the Americas. Massive demographic changes, the emergence of Afro-American cultures, and the economic boom of the plantation economy. Consequences for Europe. Enormous profits for merchants, shipping companies, and colonial powers, laying the foundation for the rise of port cities such as Liverpool, Nantes, Amsterdam, and Lisbon. Resistance and abolition. There were maroon communities, independent settlements of escaped slaves, and abolitionist movements in the 18th and 19th centuries in Europe and the Americas. End of the trade. Britain banned the slave trade in 1807, but abolished slavery itself only in 1833. The United States banned the importation of slaves in 1808 and abolished slavery in 1865 with the 13th Amendment. Cuba and Brazil held on the longest, with the last transport from Africa to Brazil taking place in 1867. Cultural legacy. Cultural blending led to new languages, religions, music, and food traditions, such as jazz, candomblé, and Creole languages. Economic inequalities between the global North and South are also a lasting legacy of this system.